Okay, this is going to get weird, but I'm going to have to go out and shoot at some animals because they are now eating my new trees.
Squirrels?
Goats,
Goats?
yes.
Wild goats?
No, the neighbors.
Fuck.
And we are live on a Triple T Tuesday, Talk Time with TJ, number 234, coming at you live from Dallas, Texas. I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for showing up. This is going to sound crazy, but I may have to jump out here in a little bit. The neighbor's goats got out and they are eating all of our brand new plants, including my brand new trees and my wife's roses, of all things. But I want to get this started. Welcome, and we are live on YouTube, which allows me to say hi, Mom, up in Minnesota. For those of you on YouTube, please do me a favor and do all the YouTube stuff. Click on the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when we're back on the air. Leave some comments, click like on some videos, share the videos. I would appreciate it. Also, while you're on the internet, if you would do me a favor and check out my website at www.thetSWB.com. The Tall Skinny White Boy is what it stands for, always has since way before the internet. So on there you'll be able to find some of the things that I do. This is going to look weird, but I got to message my neighbors. Of all things, got a small disaster going on here. So while we're doing that, while you're on my website, you can see some of the things that I get to do. Hold on, I hate doing this. Thank you for your patience. Back to the show. Where was I? Yes, at the website you can see some of the stuff that I'm privileged to help people with, such as depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, and I offer corporate coaching. I work with uh, athletes from beginner all the way up to pro level. Been still doing relationship stuff, so if you know anybody that is having some challenges with the relationship, like me and the goats that are eating all of our precious plants in our yard, um, you can have them get a hold of me. I do offer a free 30-minute consultation. That's right, no charge to you, and 30 minutes to chat with me about the challenges that you are facing. And after 30 minutes, if I feel that we are a fit, I'll let you know. And also, if I feel that we are, for some reason, not a fit, I will let you know. And I will do my best to help you find a person that can help you out. I hate to do this. Are you there, Mark? I think Mark just stepped out for a bit too. Well, it's going to be what it's going to be. What a night. What a day. We're having fun now. I don't even remember where we are. Website, yes, check that out. And tie of the week. Another big pile of poo on my tie.
Oh, I love him.
Yes. Um, say, Duncan,
Yes, sir.
could you do me a big favor?
Sure.
Um, could you monitor this for just a quick second while I go rescue the plants and shut the gates?
Sure.
All right, thank
All right.
you. I'll be right back.
Okay. Right. Well, anybody want to tell us what we did on Father's Day?
Oh, I had a good day. Didn't do nothing,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
got calls from my kids, and I got my wife bought me Chinese food for Father's Day, so
Nice.
I was feeling pretty appreciated.
Nice.
Which this week, a couple of my clients were feeling very unappreciated. I saw
Yeah.
some statistic that said that the amount of money spent on dads for Father's Day was half of what was spent for Mother's Day. So
Yeah, I believe it.
I I got I had but I had a good day, like I said. But these guys, again, they felt very unappreciated by their families. So
Isn't
I
that
have to
very
deal with that.
common in our society that men in general, fathers, men in
Yeah,
general, husbands are appreciated way less than they should be?
yeah. Well, we all are looking for appreciation. Not that feeling of being valued. You know, the that because that's what appreciation is a just valuation. So
Mm-hmm.
they were feeling a little underappreciated, I guess you'd say. So
Yep.
you know, so we had to deal with that first and foremost.
Right.
Oh, Holly's here. Hi, Holly.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And thank you for those of you that are watching live and those that are watching the recording. Yeah, the text to the neighbor went through, and also my brother-in-law just got home, so I called him and asked him to go get the goats out of the way. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see how much they ate when we're done. Anyhow, back to the show. Oh, we're having fun now. Uh, Other than that, yes, I didn't even think I could have just let you guys go right into anything exciting
Yeah,
in the
we
last
didn't. We
7
don't
days.
need you here. We can handle
Yeah. Yes, it'll be triple D. It'll be
it. There you go.
Double D.
yes, discussions with Duncan.
I'll give you the Duncan diagnosis.
There you go. Duncan and Donegan.
Yes.
It's a vaudeville hit.
Yes.
Well, for those of you that just joined and you're wondering what in the world is he talking about, I
Like I
got
said,
my
I like.
surveillance system cameras over here, and I looked out, and my neighbor's 4 goats were in the front yard having a little lunch on our newly planted trees and my wife's roses.
Hmm.
And because I prefer to have my life to be a little less stressful, I wanted that taken care of immediately. So, but it looks like it's been taken care of, so thanks for your patience. Anybody else got anything they want to share with this crazy night on episode number 234 of Triple T?
Wow.
Well, if not, we'll get this going. The way it works, it's a 2-hour show. And usually I'm here all the time and not looking all over the place, but I do my best to try and get through 3 topics that I picked for the night. And when the first hour is over, then we do a little switcheroo, and it's open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up a topic or ask a question, and I let the people on the call answer first because I like to learn as well. And after everybody's answered, if I feel like I still have something I can add to the topic, that's when I toss in my 2 centavos. So, all that, I guess it's time to get us going on with the show, as they say. Tonight's topics are bonsai, rehearsal, and questioning affirmations. So, starting off with bonsai, as you guys know, a good portion of my topics come from work with my clients, and this is one of them. And it's kind of a little tongue-in-cheek the way I brought this one up. Who remembers the show Karate Kid? And do you remember when Mr. Miyagi gave Daniel-san a bonsai tree? And Daniel-san is looking at it and he's scared because he knows that they're supposed to be trimming them. And he goes, well, I don't know how to do this. Anybody remember what advice Mr. Miyagi gave Daniel-san?
No.
You simply take away everything that is not the bonsai.
Okay.
And I use that metaphor with the changes that we do on ourselves, trying to improve ourselves and all this stuff. It's easy to sit here and think that we're adding all these different things on, these talents and this knowledge and all these other things. But a lot of times we forget that we also are clearing away stuff. We're chipping away stuff. We're finding that statue of David inside of that huge chunk of marble or granite. And you have to look at it in both lights as far as I'm concerned. You can keep adding on, but at some point there's quite a bit that can be let go. And when I'm working with my clients, it's always fun when we find a deal or a topic or something that's been holding them back, and you find out that this has been around, they've been dealing with this since they were like 7 or 5. And when they finally trim that off, they finally cut that loose, and they come out and I ask them, what do you notice? What's different? I feel so much lighter. Well, you are. You've gotten rid of how many years of junk, and it also reminded me of having arborists over here. We've got 4 acres here and a lot of trees. And they pointed out that these trees need trimming and pruning of the diseased and the sick limbs and stuff like that for their health. which was another metaphor for the stuff that we do. You know, you look at a business. Sometimes you got to get rid of certain employees that are toxic to the environment. You look at your tribe, and even though, but I've known them for so long. But are they, after you've been around them for a while, do you feel energized or do you feel drained? Are they lifting you up or are they sucking your energy? Are they an energy supply or are they a vampire? And it was another way when I was looking at that, well, who do I know to get rid of? You get rid of everything that isn't the bonsai. Another great quote that I saw on Instagram was one of the top forms of intelligence is the ability to create a life that you want. Which sounds fairly simple in the saying, but how many people are actually living a life where they are void of want? I have everything I want. Everything is exactly the way I want it. I wouldn't change a thing. Especially in this day and age of capitalism and all the tricks that they do with advertising to make you feel like you're missing out on something. And it can be very hard to deal with sometimes. I've got a couple of clients I've worked with for issues with buying. Excuse me. And impulse buying and things of that nature. And what we discovered was, yes, it was partially due to their upbringing. You know, they grew up in a poor family and when they went to school, they didn't have the cool outfits, they didn't have the cool backpack, they didn't have the cool sneakers and all of that stuff. And so now that they're growing up and they've got money of their own, they kind of went overboard. Especially because they've made it quite well, and even though they've got a good amount of money, they're not, as long as they respect the money and use it wisely, they have enough to live on for the rest of their life. But at the rate they were going with buying stupid stuff, it was pretty obvious that that was not going to be the case much longer if they didn't straighten out their buying habits. And one of the things we uncovered was they realized they were quite susceptible to advertising tactics. Hey, buy this outfit. You'll look just like Brad Pitt. Buy this car so that you can be like Jennifer Aniston. And once they were able to open up their eyes to that portion, and then, as we've talked about many times on here, identifying different personalities. When we analyzed which personality it was that really wanted all of the new stuff, they named that personality Paris Hilton. And they realized that they had created that personality while they were in high school, because that's when they started working and making their own money and had the ability every now and then to buy themselves something. And so they would do the best to buy the showy stuff to impress others by what they were able to own now. Any opinions, ahas, epiphanies on this so far? Mark?
Yeah, couple of thoughts. The the first scroll said, playing the game of he who dies with the most toys wins is a losing game.
Yes.
Because, if I just had that new stereo, if I had that new car, then I'd be happy. And then you get that, and then 5 minutes later, they come out with a better. This is again the whole advertising frame is to instill that that need in you.
Yes.
But you're not happy because somebody else has a bigger TV, a bigger car,
New and improved.
yes. So you're only happy for about 5 minutes, and then you go back to being not happy. But guys who play that game, people who play that game, he who dies with the most toys wins. They're never happy for more than 5 minutes. So
No.
it's but the whole idea of the bonsai is an interesting metaphor. Again, removing the excesses to, we have a concept in Freemasonry, the rough ashlar and the perfect ashlar. And, you're trying to chisel your soul into the perfect ashlar, the perfect stone by chipping away the superfluities and excesses of life to create something perfect. So that's that's the metaphor we learned in Freemasonry about the rough ashlar and the perfect ashlar.
Cool.
That's just by removing the excess dross from the stone to create something perfect, and you're chiseling away pieces of yourself to create something, better, basically, by removing stuff. And
I'm so glad you brought that up, because it also applies to finances. When you started saying that, especially with the new and improved and trying to keep up with the Joneses, and oh my gosh, people give me a hard time because I'm still using an iPhone 8, and they're like, oh yeah, oh God, do you have to take a hammer and chisel to text on it? Do you send up smoke signals from? Like, yes, I realize you got the iPhone, 37 now or something like that, and new and improved. And I'm like, so if I call you from my iPhone 8 on your iPhone, whatever the latest, greatest, do I sound better? Does it, for what I do with my phone, this one does everything I need. And it's been paid off for for a while now. Yeah, but I got mine for free. Did you really? Are you sure? Because that's a sneaky little deal as well. Just like those credit cards. That's right. Buy this with the super duper credit card. platinum, black, diamond, gold credit card, zero 0% on purchases for the first 10 hours. After that, 42% interest compounding. But they don't see that part of the small print.
Maybe Greg can remember. What was it that Carl Malden used to say about the American Express card? What was their advertising?
Leave home without it.
That's it. Don't leave home without it.
That's right. And they even got the one of the baseball teams, American Express card. Don't steal home without it. Or wait a minute, that was in a movie. Great movie, by the way.
Major League. Yeah.
Major League. Yes. So all that to suffice back to the metaphor of the bonsai. At some point, we all have to step back and look at our lives, look at our stuff, and go, is the bonsai healthy? Is there anything that needs to be taken away that is not the bonsai? And if so, can you do it on your own? If not, who can help you? And if you are unsure of what the bonsai should look like, who do you trust to give you the insights to know what to trim back? Are you able to see what is holding you back? Are you able to see what is pinning you down? One of the funniest ones that I've seen is people that have lost credit cards or got one stolen and instantly had to find out, well, what was all on that card? Subscriptions to what? I was paying for what? Or they start really analyzing the costs of certain things that were auto pay. All of a sudden, they didn't realize that their cell phone plan had gone from $34 up to $95, or their wireless or their internet plan went from $40 up to $100, and they're like, what? When did that happen? When did I approve of that? Mark, you're muted, Mark.
Try that again. All right. Yeah. No, I had my debit card pitched, and people got my information, so I had to cancel it, get a whole new one with new numbers. And I found out when I did, other merchants reached out to me that I had automatic pay on, and one of them was Apple. And there were 3 subscription services that I had totally forgotten that I, impulsively signed up for.
Yeah.
And by having that happen, I canceled them and saved a total of like $200 a year. So,
yeah. So the bonsai trimmed itself by accident.
Yeah. And then I also had a thought about, like Christmas trees. You're talking about trees, and some people, like you said, keep adding stuff to the outside. And some Christmas trees, you can't even see the tree because of all the decorations, when it's supposed to be a Christmas tree. It's got garland on it. It's got, all, lights, you know, there's so many ornaments on it, you can't even see the tree anymore. And
Right.
that's the adding stuff on type of thing. So, um,
And
yeah,
I
that would be another, you know, metaphor about the bonsai. So,
Yeah, and for those of you that are watching live or watching the recording, I forgot to mention you don't get the the privilege of reading the comment sections on here. So please join us if you're watching the recording or live. But Holly put in there, one of the cool things about trimming a bonsai is that they grow. If you trim it and decide you don't like it, it isn't gone forever. Just wait for it to grow back. And even that can be a metaphor for some of the stuff that we clear up. It was so funny when Dr. David was teaching Grey Room, and one of the students came in to like the fourth day of class early in the morning. He goes, I was doing Grey Room and clearing up stuff for the last 2 days, and then this morning I decided I'd check, and there was stuff there again. When is it going to be done? And David's like, never. The guy was like, what? He goes, yeah, it's kind of like brushing your teeth or taking a shower. If you live, if you're out, if you're doing things, you're going to need to take a shower, you're going to need to brush your teeth. And it's the same with mental hygiene. We have to keep in mind that we constantly need to pay attention to what we're absorbing, accepting, eating, ingesting, all the above. That includes uh, conversations and what we're reading and what we're watching, what we're listening to, and the thoughts in our head and all that stuff. Yeah, we have to keep track of those because that stuff will build up. Mark.
yeah, I remember, and I've used the Grey Room a few times with clients, and then they'd come back and they say, well, I went back there and there was more stuff. And I said, well, why wasn't it all gone the first time? And I said, well, you weren't ready to get rid of it, at that time. So when you revisit it, there's more stuff. Well, that's good because that was the stuff you weren't ready to get rid of the first time, but now you are. So,
Yeah.
I turned it on itself a little bit and said, that was the stuff that popped up that, the subsequent visits that you weren't ready to get rid of. So, and now you are. So that's when you do the work, every time you go back to the Grey Room.
And I'm so glad you brought that up because if you have a tree that is severely overgrown or a bush that is severely overgrown, you oftentimes you cannot go in and absolutely chop that thing down to what you think it should look like because you will stress the plant out so badly it may not survive. So you got to do it in stages and have the vision of what you want it to look like, a little here and a little there, and let it recover, let it get stronger, then trim a little here and a little over there, and let it recover again. Holly put in there this analogy also applies to time, as Dean Graziasi taught me. The most important decisions we make in life that help us accomplish things are about what we choose not to do to make room for what is important more than what we choose to do. Or as Dallin H. Oakes said it, in life we often have choices between good, better, and best. Are we doing so many good things that we aren't leaving space for what is better or best? Great stuff, Holly. Thank you for sharing that. And that's why I wanted to bring this little metaphor up. Mike.
So here's an interesting conversation. My bonsai tree, my garden, when I grew up, was all full of weeds because of stress and family and all that other stuff. So what did I do? I just bought pinwheels and put them in the garden, so it distracted me from the weeds. And then pretty soon my pinwheels started over flooding and all that other stuff, and that's kind of how I got through my childhood. So that's how that went.
Yeah. And that the interesting part about what you kind of alluded to is fertile ground. You know, weeds don't grow very good in barren, rocky soil, but neither does anything else. Kind of like the comfort zone. It's a nice place to be, but nothing really grows there. But if you have very fertile soil, you also have to be a good steward of it, because along with the desired plants, weeds grow quite well in fertile soil as well. And that's back to keeping track of your thoughts and what you're putting in, um, what you choose to have it look like.
So this is an interesting conversation because you're talking about a mind that's quiet. It has the ability to be able to sit back and say, you know what? I have a choice. I have the ability to make these decisions, and I'm worth it. This kind of ties into the anxiety conversation that we had last week, where if that is taking up 80% of your mental capacity, and you're working on 20% of your mental capacity, and you're trying to live and go to school and be a human being, you don't have that quiet ability to be able to make those decisions. Everything's reflective or reactive. So that will, and this may be a second hour conversation that has been usually all week about that anxiety or whatever mental spinning that goes in your mind. But that self-improvement comes from that quiet and be able to have that, environment. So anyway, that's my 2 cents for now.
Yeah, and when you brought that up, of course, my squirrels are tossing metaphors like crazy. It's kind of like when you plant something new in a garden and things start coming up. Is it a weed, or is it a flower, or is it what is it? Because something is coming up. I know that something got into the soil. And a little joke that I heard many years ago was, how do you tell the difference between a weed and a flower? If it pulls out easily, it was a flower. And just like with some of the stuff that we sit here and try to improve our life with, some stuff takes hold real easy. Some stuff you have to work on like bamboo. Like there are species of bamboo that you plant and you water for 5 to 6 years with no. If you're seeing things pop up within a year or 2 years, that's a weed. But if people don't know what you're working on, they're going to look at you like you're a little cuckoo. sitting there watering barren land for 5, 6 years with nothing popping up. But if something pops up in the first 4 years, you're yanking it out. Until that bamboo finally comes up, and then it grows like crazy. And then you get the payoff. Mike.
But that comes from a self-regulated environment, not reactive. Don't you agree?
Correct. Yes. And I think it also comes from intention and tribe and support. That's where you get the watering from. If you can't create it on your own, having tribe to support you and understand your vision. If the rest of the people understand that you've planted this type of bamboo and they know what the bamboo is, they'll help you water that barren soil for 6 years. But if they've never heard of that kind of stuff, like, oh, that self-help, oh yeah, you're one of those, oh, I'm okay, you're okay, oh yeah, okay, whatever, just, they're not going to understand what you're doing for 6 years until the proof shows up. And I've got a couple of clients that I've been working with for almost 6 years now. The amount of change that they have accomplished is incredible. And they're not looking to stop anytime soon, because they are now seeing the bamboo popping up. And it is popping like crazy. One of my YouTube watchers sent me a text, said, worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere. Yes, busyness, activity, without getting anywhere. And just realize that we're getting into time. It's already 40. Any other comments, epiphanies on this? Maybe we can fit 2 topics in tonight. Well, you guys can always bring up questions or revisit this in the second hour as well. Remember that. So if a squirrel pops up and you're like, oh, I should have asked that. We got all of second hour, but rehearsal, we'll get into the second topic, rehearsal. And this comes from me working with people for public speaking. And I didn't really realize, excuse me, how long I've been helping people with public speaking. I was so blessed in high school to get in with a deal called DECA, Distributive Educational Clubs of America. And one of the things we had to do was we had to learn public speaking. And so I got a lot of really good tips from that. But one of them was rehearsing your speech. But what I found out was you have to rehearse it properly. And by properly, there's a lot of different ways. One of them is understanding your crowd. one of them is putting yourself in their place. If I were them, and actually them, not if it was me with my values and criteria sitting in that seat, but if I was that person from what I think their values and criteria are, what would I want to hear? As a bunch of you know, I've worked with TED Talk speakers and other public speakers, and one of them that I was working with was putting together and rehearsing a speech for a talk they had coming up. And I said, okay, let me hear it. And they showed me their notes and everything, and they went over their speech. And when they got done, I said, who is your target market? Who is sitting in the crowd? And immediately, of course, they got this look on their face like, oh, well, was there something wrong? Did I suck? I'm like, no, it was an amazing speech for the wrong crowd. The speech you just gave me would work amazingly for this type of a crowd. But you told me you were giving a speech for this type of a crowd. And they panicked for a bit because they had worked so hard on this speech and their timeline was dwindling down. And I told them the information is intact. The information is good. The presentation was not optimal for your target market. Again, if you were giving this speech to this type of a crowd, don't change anything. But for this crowd, I want you to think about how would they take this talk? And they went, oh. So, kind of like when I was in college for hotel, restaurant, property management, one of the things that we had to do was we would, when they would have events at the college, we would run the kitchen and serve the meal that was being served for the function. And unfortunately, for this one function, I was not present. I would like to believe I would have caught this oopsie, and I'll set it up for you a little bit. We had the farmers. It was something about beef cattle farmers union or something like that. Or no, it was the Dairy Association. We were hosting something for the Dairy Association, and so they were getting steak and potatoes and some veggies, and whoever was in charge, unfortunately, put margarine on the table. All the tables. it was duly noted, duly scrambled while people were eating to get that stuff off these tables and find some butter. Know your audience. And we learned stuff about this really young. When you wanted something, at a certain age, you realize that if I had to pick between asking mom or asking dad, or if I had the possibility asking grandma or grandpa, who might I ask first? Well, it depends on what you're asking for, right? And of course, the analogy, if you wanted a puppy, you asked for a pony, leaving room for the negotiations. And so that's also a time for rehearsal. Funny little story. I guess it was about 3 weeks ago. I was at the grocery store and I'm walking around. I like watching people because I'm a people watcher anyway. And I look over and here's this young man, I'm saying probably 12, 13 maybe. And it's mom, the daughter, who I figure was probably about 15, 16, and the son, about 12, 13. And I could see the son had brought up this deal of sandwiches on croissants, croissant sandwiches in a blister display. And I could see that he was trying to convince mom that this is just what we need to buy. And I saw mom look at the kid as I was going past them, and I had to stop, and I started cracking up, and I backed up, and I looked over, and of course they're looking at me like, can we help you? I looked at mom and I said, I know that look. I've seen that look. I've been given that look. I've given that look. You know what look I'm talking about. And mom immediately knew what I was talking about. She started cracking up. The 15, 16-year-old daughter quickly caught on to what I was talking about. She started cracking up. Then the son caught on to what I was talking about. He was not so impressed because he thought that I was making fun of him. And I said, I looked at him and I said, you're perfecting the art of sales. This is sales. You've been in sales your entire life since the day you were born. I said, this is just another form of it. Let me guess. Did you give her, well, this is really good and it's on sale and the price is good? And he kind of looked at me and he's like, and I said, or did you use, mother, you're such a hard worker. And if you got this, then you could relax and we could have sandwiches for supper and you could just relax like you deserve to. And mom really cracked up at that. And the kids look at me like, what? And even the daughter was like, oh, yeah. Well, you know how it works when you're shopping. You go around this one display and you come this way. Well, they happen to be coming this way, and mom is putting the sandwiches back. And they looked at me, and she's still kind of grinning. And I said, let me guess. And I'm looking at the son. I said, did she tell you we can make these at home cheaper? He goes, No. She goes, oh yeah, that too. He was like, ah. I said, rehearse your pitch. Who are you selling to? Are you selling to mom? Are you selling to the family? Are you selling for yourself? Know your market. Any ahas, epiphanies, insights on this? Now, speaking of sales, Dr. Duncan over there working on that equipment has a very specific niche market. The people that come to him understand that the equipment that he's selling is becoming rarer by the day. Sometimes they come for nostalgia. Sometimes, I remember Dad had this system, and oh man, and then Mom made him get rid of it, and oh, he was just bummed about it. Or it's people our age that go, yeah, I remember I had that back in the day, and then I thought I had to go get the new one, and then I got the other, and then I got married, and the wife said you can't have big speakers like this, so you got to get that little Bose system, and it sounds horrible, and I just want a system like this again. And so they go to Dr. Duncan, or they go up in the garage or up in the attic, and they find that old system that they had to take out of the living room, sitting up there, and it doesn't quite look the way it did back in the day. And they need someone like him to take a toothbrush and knowledge of getting it looking like it did when it came fresh out of the box, and getting it sound as good or better than when it came out of the box. You're on mute, buddy.
That's what this turntable is. Return customer came this afternoon and she says, I found this in the garage. It's been there for 30 years. It's old Pioneer turntable. See what you can do with it. So it's about 15 minutes. It'll be ready for another 50 years of dedicated service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to tell them about the monster turntable you just finished?
Oh my God. I weighed that today. I took pictures of it and weighed it. 40 pounds.
A 40-pound turntable.
Pound turntable. Thorens TD125, made in Germany, designed in Sweden, but under license in Sweden and built in Germany, because they knew Germans with their knack for over designing and overbuilding things would be the place to get the best table ever. So 40 pounds later, yeah, that's a fine piece of equipment. Very challenging to work on. The bigger they are, the heavier they are, there's more challenges taking them apart, right? Getting them back together, fixing things. There were a couple of missing parts, of course. They have been sitting for years as well. So, but that's part of my passion for this, is keeping these things alive, because they'll never make anything like this again, ever.
No.
No. So, and to your point, I do know my customers. I generally know what they want. I'm part psychologist when people come here.
Yes.
They're emotionally attached. Hey, Grandma used to sit me on her lap and play, Frank Sinatra tunes on this thing, and now it's not working. And then when they come pick it up, they're like, "Oh my God!" It puts them right back there with Grandma.
And that's all part of you've had enough rehearsal to know your market, to know your clients when they come in,
Mm-hmm.
and the ones that this thing was sitting up in the attic in a box that got dripped on.
Mm-hmm.
Can you fix it? And at some point, it's how much money do we get into this before we go out and have to find another one, if there is such a thing.
Right. One of my lines is, people say, well, do you think you could fix it? I'm like, well, with enough time, patience, and money, anything's possible. How much do you want to invest? But there's always alternatives. If something's just a basket case and not worth putting money into, I always have other equipment. I can steer them into something else that's been restored.
Yep. So that brought us right up to the top of the hour. We at least we made it through 2 topics tonight. For those of you that are joining us late or watching the recording for the first time and missed the first part, this is where things change around a little bit, and it's open mic, open platform. Anybody on the call can bring up a topic or ask a question, and I let the people on the call answer first. So, do we have any topics or questions that we can start off the hour with? Who's got something for us?
I just want to add to the last topic, which was practicing, right? Practicing your dialogue. There's it's funny because I thought of this afternoon, and now here it is. There's this dialogue we have, like for instance, I had to call AT&T about my call it internet service. They had raised the rates, as you mentioned before. They raised the rates without telling me. I'm going through this dialogue in my head of how I'm going to have to push and be strong, and if you don't fix it, I'm going to go to another carrier, right? And it didn't happen. It was great. The guy took care of me, right? Made it right. I got double the speed at half the price, or almost half the price. So I call that. I liken it to rehearsing for a movie you don't want to be in.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Combined with diffusing the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
If you've rehearsed enough, you can see when the bombs are starting to get primed.
Yep.
And you guys can, as I mentioned before, any of if you want to talk more about the 2 topics that we had earlier, we can. This is your hour. But if somebody has a question for the group, please bring it up. Mark.
Yeah, I have a question I thought of this afternoon. I've been going down a rabbit hole with a new person, author, podcaster. His name is Dean Radin. He has a new book out. He talks a little bit. We were talking last week a little bit about the science of magic, but he's talking a little bit about manifestation, and we were talking about that a little bit last week, I believe. We're trying to, when we try to manifest things in our lives, sometimes it seems, we're running up against a brick wall. But he had a concept that when you send out your intent, you're weakening the walls of probability between you and the thing that you want. And so the more you rehearse the your intent, keeping using your imagination that you already have the thing that you want, you basically are thinning the walls of reality, of probability between you and the thing you want, the life you want, whatever. So, my question is, does that make sense to people? That when we're trying to manifest things into our lives, again, I like the concept of, thinning the walls of probability because sometimes those walls can be pretty thick, and you just have to be, they can be, but they can be overcome if with constancy and effort that, at least that's my belief. But, I'd like to hear what other people are thinking about, again, but that whole concept of thinning the walls of probability between you and the thing that you want would be something that, a way to conceptualize manifestation in a whole new way. So, what do
Cool.
people think?
So who's got an answer with that? While we're waiting for someone to raise their hand, Mike put a good comment in there about rehearsing, and he said, but rehearsing and rehearsing and rehearsing can create overprocessing. Prepping for the argument that never happens, or you forget how the rehearsing went. And that's a good point, Mike. And that's where a lot of overthinkers and anxiety people that are worst case scenario overthinkers tend to rehearse worst case scenario, and they sometimes, I think, they forget what the possibilities are. And so when the actual situation happens right here, they rehearsed so many worst case scenarios, they forget what the hopeful outcome was supposed to be, if that makes sense. But back to, let's see, got another one here. Yeah, like so many versions and forgot which one. Yeah, I've seen that happen many times. But back to the thinning walls that Mark had brought up. Anybody got any comments on that? Maybe you described it so well that, how about, does anybody agree or disagree with the concept that he brought up? There we go. Mike agrees. Any other comments that Holly put in? One thing I noticed was the word try. When we manifest, there is do or do not. There is no try. It's a good comment. Thank you. Any other Mark?
I was just gonna say, like I said, it's just another, like I said, it's always good to conceptualize things from different directions. And this guy, like I said, he was talking about, again, the fact that things are possible, but then, that we have to, like I said, when we try to manifest something, we try to use the manifestation techniques. We use the techniques that we're most familiar with, using your imagination, imagine yourself actually doing it or having done it.
Yeah.
And maybe that probably doesn't work for everyone, so this is just another way of sending out, mentally focusing on the, what you want that change to be. And again, it's just another way, I thought it was a kind of a new way to focus on the, because, he was talking about, he told a story about the fact that he, that things are, like I said, there are things that are probable, there are things that are improbable, but, sometimes the improbable happens, so, and like I said, that concept of thinning the walls of, probability between you and the thing you want to manifest again, it was intriguing, so I thought I'd bring it up.
Yep. And we got some good comments in there. Renee put in, mentally occupy the fulfilled state before the physical evidence appears. And then Holly commented, it's an interesting concept. From another perspective, when we focus on things and rehearse things we are going to manifest, we are more likely to keep doing the things that get us to that destination. And when we do those things, by definition, the probabilities will improve. Great comment, Holly. Thank you. Any other ahas, comments, epiphanies, or do we have another question, another topic we can bring up? And forgot to mention, Lenora is regretfully not with us tonight. She's at a training for her puppy dog. What do we got here? Renee put in the comments, remain non-resistant to the desire itself. Once we want something, we notice the absence of it. Another great comment. Anybody have any reply, rebuttal to that one? It's interesting how many people don't realize that they are, quote unquote, lacking something until somebody else has it. And I'm trying to remember, I can see the comedian, but I can't think of his name right now. And he was talking about how when we're a kid, we just want an ice cream cone. Ice cream cone, ice cream cone. We always see me. I want an ice cream cone. And we get the ice cream cone. We're like, got an ice cream cone. Life is amazing. Oh, I got an ice cream cone. And then somebody walks by with an ice cream cone that has 2 scoops and sprinkles. And you look at your ice cream cone and I want sprinkles. And all of a sudden, they notice what they're missing, what they're lacking. Mark.
Yeah, I was on that whole idea of manifestation. I realized that that's kind of what I do, when a new client walks in the door. I imagine them as how they can be more competent, more, more, becoming the person that they are truly meant to be. And so I'm already beginning to manifest for them improvement. I don't have a horse in the race of what they want to do or how they want to improve. But, I start manifesting them as being bigger, better, stronger, more confident, more, less anxious, less depressed. So I'm already manifesting who they can become. And before I even, like I said, before we get into the treatment, I think that's, just imagining them, and I realize that as I'm working with them and helping them, focus their intent on becoming, I'm thinning the walls of probability between them, the person they are, and the person they want to be. So I'm doing that all the time.
Yes,
So,
I'm so glad you brought that up because what my squirrel was screaming, manifesting for others. For those of us that are into helping people out, yes, wanting people to have better things, better life, better thoughts, better health, a better running vehicle, a better sounding stereo. And we can see it, but I think part of it is also sharing the vision with others. It's one thing for us to look at somebody and go, oh, they should have a better life. But it's another thing to understand, what steps can I take? How can I help this person with whatever it's going to take to get those steps done to get them to that much better life. And sometimes we don't know what we're up against in our manifesting, and I think in some ways that helps us. You know, it's kind of like watching these people that you explain manifesting to them, and they still can't wrap their head around the fact that there are many, many things that if you simply ask the universe for, they can magically show up. Just like that. Amazing. Mark.
Well, also, the power of one is great, but again, if maybe we don't know exactly what their image is, but we're doing our thing and helping them, in our way to help them manifest improvement in their lives. Maybe that the force of two minds trying to manifest roughly the same thing thins those walls even more.
Yes. And Mike put a comment in there. Do you think that is part of the training, part of any skill? It is better to follow the pathways versus telling someone to do something and then correct reactively. I think it can be a cross between both of those, Mike. You can lay out a pathway and hope they follow it. You can guide them, you can mentor them, and all of that is based on your experience. And yet it still comes down to, sometimes it's the ahas, the manifesting, the ability for that light to spark for them to get where you're trying to lead them. Holly.
We'll see if my voice will hold out here. So I just had kind of a random thought about manifesting. Is it possible that manifesting, one of the things that holds people back is the shape of manifesting is more of a spiral rather than a straight line, but we expect it to be a straight line, and the second we get on something and they say 2 steps forward, 1 step back, you do the 1 step back, you're like, oh, I'm out, I can't do this is dangerous, I'm going the wrong direction. And I'm wondering, does that happen to us both when we're manifesting, but also when we're helping others to manifest? That we see them take that 1 step back, and instead of seeing the 2 steps forward. So one, does that sound like is a thing? Two, how can we plan for it and do better if we're aware of it?
Great stuff. Who's got an answer for Miss Holly? Mark's got his hand up.
Well, again, we're supposed to be the knowledgeable ones about, again, harkening back to what you were talking about, rehearsal. They say practice makes perfect, but if you're practicing the wrong methodology, doesn't matter how much you practice, and our role as guides is to, like I said, I'll tell people all the time, I believe you can get better, and if you can't believe it, believe that I believe, and, take a walk a mile in my moccasins, that, that powerful positive change, can happen, because I've seen it happen with a bunch of people. And that, so I get them to buy into my belief, that yeah, they can achieve the things that they want. They can become the person they want to become, resolve issues from the past, uh, you know, uh, improve relationships, improve, career paths, because if I'm the guide and I say, yeah, I believe you can do it, and, I believe, believe right down to my socks that you can, do it, and, I can, that whole idea of the poem with the footsteps, I'll carry you for a while, but
Yep.
believe that I believe, and go from there, so I believe everybody's capable of it, because, we're human.
Yeah.
We do assume sometimes that, make some assumptions that people are human, and if you're human, you can learn how to manifest, good things in your life. So, but I ask them to, if they can't believe that I believe. Take,
That's great.
so.
Great answer. And we got some good comments in the comment section too. Mike asked a question of how does fulfilling and managing expectations apply? And disappointment and the continuing effort versus crossing the finish line, the coasting. Guillermo answered yes, but they will understand your message based on their mental filters and how they were raised. Absolutely. Great question, great answer. Part of what we have to be able to provide is managing expectations. Some of the work that we do, of course, is oh, it's a little woo-woo. You're getting a little woo-woo there. And we have to be able to work with them through some of that stuff without, how can I say it, without putting our ideas in their head. We can lead them, and Dr. David Snyder teaches it very well. Most people will not believe what you tell them, but they will believe what they
Conclude.
Yes, they believe what they conclude. And so in the work that we do, we have to be very careful to not tell them what is going to happen. We can lead them in a direction, and that's where I ask so many questions of what do you notice, what's different? So that they can come to the conclusion on their own and own it. And one of the things that I forgot to mention earlier, when the idea of helping people manifest things and things like that, and instead of it being a step forward, all of a sudden they end up 2 steps back, and they're like, what the what? I thought we were helping them understand that sometimes you have to take 2 steps back so that you can get to the other side of the fork and go the direction you were supposed to be going. And we've seen this, I've seen it a number of times with people trying to manifest things. Some of the most famous ones that I have personally witnessed was a guy wanted to manifest a raise at his job, and he had a very specific amount of money he wanted for the raise. And 2 weeks later, he gets laid off. And he was like, what, I'm trying to manifest a raise and now I'm unemployed? And getting unemployed made him go look for another job where he got better pay, which happened to be his old salary and the raise that he had written. So there are times where, yes, you will get knocked back 2 steps so that you can get pointed in the right direction. Another one was a lady in our classes we were doing for manifesting wrote down a very specific car that she wanted to own because hers was having issues. And we had our next class was a month away. And she showed up to the class, came up and said, I want everybody to walk out on the patio because the classroom we were using was on the 3rd or 4th floor, and there was a patio, and we looked down and she goes, that car right there, that's mine. That's the one that I wanted to manifest last month. But you won't believe how I got it. And of course we're like, all right, we'll play. A week after the class, when she wrote down her manifesting for this exact car, her car got totaled while it was parked. And it was caught on camera, the surveillance camera. And so the person who totaled their car, their insurance company had to pay up. And it paid just the amount of money she needed to pay for this car she just found that she had perfectly described. And so once again, 2 steps back to get on the right path to what she was trying to manifest. Mark.
I heard a story once about, manifestation that was kind of amusing. A lady was in class and she wanted to marry. You got to be very specific about what you want to manifest, because she said she wanted to marry a rich guy. So she came back 6 months later and she had married a guy named Rich. And he was poor, and she got a divorce, and she came back and she said, well, this time I want a guy who has a lot of money. So she did the work. Then she came back a couple months later. She married a guy who was rich, but he was a skinflint and he wouldn't give her any money, So she was back one more time to take the manifestation class, and the instructor's like, okay, you've had two wishes. Okay, you've got one left. You better be very specific as to what you want to manifest, because this is your last wish. So,
Yep.
you got to be very specific when you're trying to manifest things, because, again, sometimes the universe can have a little fun with you.
It can.
And I told the story of my daughter and how I think the universe had a little fun with her. So anyway, but yeah, you got to be very specific with your manifestation. So
Yep.
just a
And
thought.
Mike put in the comments, I have taken so many steps back that I cannot see where I was. That's called starting over, my friend. I've been there, done that enough times that, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Holly's got her hand up.
Geez, my mute does not want to work. Okay, so I'm noticing it's not the case in every single manifestation scenario, but how many cases did manifestation happen because a person always had it in their power to do the thing? They just needed something to happen in their life to give them the motivation to do it.
Yep, that's a very good point. And one of the things, when those things come up with some of my clients, I'll ask them, is it a hardware or is it a software issue? Meaning, say if you wanted to be a pro basketball player, well, the hardware part would be, if you're like 5'1", still possible, got to work a lot harder. Software thing would be, I've never played basketball before, I don't know the rules, even though I'm 6'4", which is still pretty short for basketball. But if I work on the software issue, I could potentially, I have a possibility of being a decent player. And for some people, they've got all the hardware stuff taken care of. Now they just need some help manifesting the software. Does that help? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Mark.
Yeah, again, that goes along with the mindset, skill set, paradigm. You may have the mindset to be an NBA player, but I mean, that's the skill set, but not the, there's the physicality. If you're, 5'2", manifesting that destiny would be a lot harder, but you got to have both. You got to have the mindset and the skill set, or like you said, you got to have the hardware and the software, because it's, things are possible. Spud Webb was like 5'2", made it to the NBA. So
Yep.
if anybody remembers Spud Webb. So, but yeah, you have to, again, what's reasonable? What's a reasonable thing to want to manifest? And so yeah, but it's got to be specific. What you want to manifest, and you have to, have the skills to be able to manifest correctly. Rehearse the correct procedure. I think, and things aren't manifesting.
One of the metaphors that I give my clients is, if you were to manifest the way you use GPS, if you get in the car and you say, take me somewhere happy, but if you give it a specific address, not only will it give you the route, it will give you alternate routes in the event that there's a detour. Holly.
So when it comes to rehearsal and manifestation, I took an organ class that had some really interesting information about rehearsal. I probably shared this before, but so the number 8 comes up twice. So the first one is, if you rehearse something wrong, which a lot of us will sometimes do out of laziness or whatever it may be, or ignorance, or a lot of things, it could take 8 times rehearsing it right to make up for the one time that you rehearsed it wrong. And then also, so the pathway they gave us is, they said, find, fence, fix, fit. So what you want to do is find the area in your process that needs the most work. Then fence it in. So you're not rehearsing everything. You're focusing on the thing, because what most of us want to do, we have something we're really, really, really good at that's really, really easy, and we want to rehearse the easy thing over and over and over again. And it's not useless, but it is definitely not the best use of your time. If you could find the place that you're struggling the most and then fence it in so you're only focusing on that, and then you fix it. So then the way you fix it in, with the organ, they'd always tell us play slow enough that you are in control. Because what a lot of us want to do is we want to play the whole, and this is music, but it applies to life too. We want to play the whole piece from beginning to end. We get to the hardest part and we want to play it at speed because it feels so cool to play it at speed. But if you slow it down to where you could get it, just right, then that number 8 comes in again. You could get it right 8 times in a row with no mistakes. Now you're ready to speed it up a little. And now you could, and then once you're done, you fit it back into the bigger piece, and now you find the place that needs your attention again. And maybe it's the same place. Maybe your fence is a little bit different. But I think that's the same for us as, where is it that I need to focus the most? Do I need to focus more on execution? Do I need to focus more on where I put my focus? Do I need to focus more on state control? Because we might be like, oh, I'm awesome at coming up with very, very specific goals. But maybe I don't focus on state control very much. For someone else might be, I'm awesome at state control, but I'm not very good at actually picking a destination. Or, it's that story about the woman who is manifesting something. I'm really good. I can come up with this, I can manifest it every single time, but I'm not actually manifesting what's right for me. So yeah, maybe I'm going to manifest somebody who's rich rather than somebody who's generous or somebody who's kind, somebody who has integrity. So it's one thing to say I know how to manifest. It's another thing to say, and I pick things that are actually good for me to manifest rather than things that come from my ego, that come from my wounds, that come from my fears. So,
Yes.
some thoughts.
And when you brought up the concept of people practicing improperly, as I mentioned before, I work with athletes from beginner all the way up to pro. And I've talked to a couple of basketball coaches that say it's really hard for them when they're driving around and they see a dad teaching his kid how to play basketball. Because part of them is like, oh, cool, well, we got another potential up and coming basketball enthusiast. But they see that the dad is teaching the kid really bad habits. And they're like, oh, now I'm going to get this kid who is relatively new to the game coming in with horrible habits that he doesn't realize are horrible that were taught to him by his father. And I have to go in and try to politely undo what his father taught him so that he can start doing it the right way. And I think that can also be part of what we deal with in the stuff that we do. People can get so frustrated and burnt out because they were instructed or taught to manifest in either, I don't know, is there a wrong way? I don't know. I'm sure there is. With expectations, maybe that's the issue. But we want to help them out before they get so frustrated that they're just like, this doesn't work. And this is blah, blah, blah. I knew it was foo-foo and that it wasn't going to work. And just like when the kid is trying to play against, say, kids his age who were taught the right way to play basketball. Does that help or muddy the waters? Holly.
That reminds me of I think I've shared before that I was a substitute school teacher for, several years back. And the best teachers would all have really, really good book on their bookshelf that I'd sometimes, sneak off their bookshelf and read during the breaks that I'd get. And anyway, there was one that I got that it was a history teacher. And it was about, and this was years ago, you know, it might have gotten worse since then, but this guy was a professor of history at a college, and he said there were so many wrong things taught in elementary school, junior high school, and high school that he had to spend his first year deprogramming everyone who had bad beliefs about knowledge. And he said they took the most common, I think it was fifth grade textbooks that were used in schools.
Yeah.
And they said that something like they took all the facts that were, because, you know, some things are maybe subject to interpretation, whatever. So they just took demonstrably provable facts. And they said something like 75% of the facts in those books were wrong, which is really, really, really bad and demonstrably wrong. You know, this is not up to, this is, you know, if I gave you a year that something happened and it was the wrong year, for example, or I told you somebody was the wrong president of the United States or something. And anyway, so I was just kind of thinking about how that applies to manifestation. We talk a lot about, you know, limiting beliefs or whatever. How many things were you taught that you were absolutely sure were right by what seemed to be a very reliable source, you know? And maybe they were doing the best they could and they thought they were telling you the truth. But sometimes the first thing you have to do is spend that year deprogramming things that are factually wrong that you just seem you've been taught are true that just aren't true.
Well, think about not even one of my scrolls brought up, it's not even about manifesting. Look at all the things that, and this is not a slam on parents. Parents are doing the best they can at the time with the tools, knowledge, and energy they have available to them. But we have people that come to us and realize that a lot of the belief systems or things of that nature that their parents handed to them were not exactly the best thing for them. And now we have to undo that programming. Again, back to the bonsai. Bonsai can also be used for poor practice. We have to learn how to be able to trim that stuff back, trim it away so that the new growth can come in healthier. And Mike put a comment in there, said, let's extend that to behaviors and habits. It's not just the mental knowledge, it's the kinesthetic system that also needs to be corrected. That, in my opinion, is the harder of the tasks. And he wants to know if there are any thoughts on that. I'll read it again while you guys are thinking, unless somebody's got an answer. Said, let's extend that to behaviors and habits. It is not just the mental knowledge, it's the kinesthetic system that also needs to be corrected. That, in my opinion, is the harder of the tasks. So who's got some inputs, ahas, epiphanies on that? Anybody?
This might be relevant. This is something that our friend Aristotle wrote in the 4th century. Excellence is an art won by training and habituation. We do not act rightly because we have virtue or excellence, but rather we have those because we have acted rightly. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit.
Great quote. Would you please read that again for people that just went, what the what?
Excellence is an art won by training and habituation. We do not act rightly because we have virtue or excellence, but rather we have those because we have acted rightly. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit.
Yes. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Which is also why, written over here on one of my boards, I wrote down a number of years ago, I put down, instead of perfection, pursue excellence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So many people beat themselves up and they invest so much energy improperly striving for perfection, which is absolutely unattainable.
Yep.
And I've argued with perfectionists on this, and I said, it doesn't matter. Nothing will be perfect. You do it this way. Well, somebody else could do it another way. Well, then yours isn't perfect. Or you did it in 10 hours, but somebody could have done it in 9. Well, is that more perfect than what? Versus excellence can be built upon continuously. You do something excellently, and then the next day you do it just a little bit better. Now it's even more excellent. And that allows you to compete with not only yourself, but everything else in the world. Oh, but look at this item over here. Yes, very excellent. Mine is also excellent. This one's perfect. No, it isn't. It's very excellent. Just like mine. Mark. Your mic's off, Mark.
And so I was just reading something about, what Mike was saying about behaviors and habits, and we're all programmed at an early age by, beliefs were installed when we were too young to question them. But then the function of the adult is to question those beliefs, like colleagues that say, self-limiting beliefs are the beliefs, and that those are the beliefs that need to be pruned or trimmed from your personal bonsai.
Yes.
But you're making choices, but you think that you're making free choices, but you're only making choices among the options that your programming allows you to see. So and the same scarcity that your father accepted as an absolute truth will dictate your financial decisions. You're not living your life, you're navigating through the script that they wrote for you.
Yes. Well, properly described, yes. Holly.
So getting into the kinesthetic system, I 100% agree that it needs to be corrected, that it's huge. How many things come back to posture and breathing? Those come up over and over and over again. I've told the story 100 times, but when I was doing martial arts, none of my techniques were working. And then somebody pointed out to me that my posture was off. I fixed my posture and all of a sudden everything started working. I will say, as far as it being harder, I think it's a mixture of harder and easier. I think it could seem harder sometimes only because we are moving every minute of every day. And so I don't know if we realize how many reps we have on bad posture if we have bad posture.
Yeah.
But I think it can actually be fixed a lot faster than we realize too. So, I'm a huge fan for those who are interested in it. I recommend looking into the Egoscue method, Egoscue. It was designed by Pete Egoscue. Also a huge fan of the Alexander technique. There's a third one and now I can't think what it is. These are the science of movement. And the interesting thing is when you fix your posture and when you fix your breathing, it's actually easier to move.
Yes.
One of the ways that you know that you're not moving correctly, and by the way, I'm the poster child for not moving correctly, even though I should know better, but when you stand up, does it take effort? If it takes effort, you're not standing up correctly. The Alexander technique will tell you that, you should barely even notice that you're moving when you stand up. But there's is it mentally harder? Is it physically harder? It's always going to be physically easier to fix the kinesthetics.
Yep.
It's just a matter of getting in, I didn't get here overnight with my bad habits. I may not get out of here overnight with good habits. but I can do them if I could just get my, if I can learn the technique and practice the technique enough times that it becomes my new normal.
Great input. Thank you. Anybody else got anything to share? Guillermo added in there that agreed you can change the mental knowledge, but you need to change the habits as well. And also put in, I believe excellence will be based on discipline and focus of specific actions that you're taking every day to change your current habits. Yes, fully agree. Any other ahas, epiphanies, comments on this? Holly.
I think it's kind of been said, but I just want to emphasize for those who don't already know this principle, for manifestation, just change your posture and your breathing and notice how quickly your manifestation changes, and even just your attitude and your focus change.
Yep.
If you're, leaning over on your phone, looking at your phone down lower versus sitting up, looking forward and opening up your entire system so you can breathe properly, you can instantly change your attitude, your energy, everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those electronic devices have done more to people in the departments of depression and anxiety than most of the things they've dealt with.
Yep.
And I've pointed that out to a number of people that are dealing with depression and anxiety, because they come in and how are they sitting? They're shrunken in, curved down, and I like when I was still working out of the clinic in San Diego, if I would come out and I would have a client sitting there. It was so interesting because, of course, what are they doing? They're on their phone. And sometimes they wouldn't even notice that I walked out into the lobby area. And they would come in and, what's going on? Oh, my life sucks and all this stuff. And I'd watch them as they walk in, and they would walk in hunched over. And I learned from Dr. David, first thing you do, straighten them up. And oftentimes just snapping them into good posture, they would burst out laughing. They'd be like, what? I said, yes, your physiology totally affects your mental state. And it can be a challenge to keep track of. I know. Trust me, I'm not immune from bad days. But I also notice when I'm having those challenging days, my body wants to hunch over. My body wants to find something to do, especially that frickin' phone. If I'm having a challenging day, my body is constantly wanting me to sit down and start the death scroll. And head bent down, shoulders crunched over. And I have to remind myself, get up, get moving, shoulders back, posture straight, get the top of your head as far away from your heels as possible. And it's amazing the energy that you will feel and the change you will feel simply by doing that. And there are a lot of people that have no idea. None at all. Holly.
Keep getting things in my head. Sorry.
Oh, that's
Just
fine.
another thought. For
Always are
anyone who's
welcome here.
for anyone who's thinking about manifestation and thinking, well, that's okay. I'm not into manifestation. I don't do manifestation. One thing to know is whether you are actively doing it or not, we're all constantly manifesting. We're all great manifestors. It's not a
Amen.
question of do you manifest, it's just a question of what do you manifest.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. I know people that are amazing at manifesting electronics issues. They walk into a room and a refrigerator will quit because they've convinced themselves that electronics just are junk and that they never work and they're always a problem. And I've had a number of people that I've worked for or who have worked for me who don't, it blows their mind. They will be having, this computer is locked up again, or this printer won't work. And I simply walk into the room and all of a sudden, and now it's working. I'm like, well, because my whole intention was, well, it's going to work. It's going to work. Now, some people can say, well, that's just a positive attitude, or that's just a belief system, or that's just your energy.
Yeah. It counts.
The answer is yes, all above. Does it always work? No, that's life. But enough to, just like parking. Who has a parking angel that they believe in, that blesses them? And yeah, it cracks me up. The amount of times I'll have somebody in the vehicle and we're going, oh, we're never gonna find parking. Oh, this is, look at this traffic, and oh, it's gonna be horrible. We're gonna end up parking 28 miles away, and we're gonna have to take an Uber from where we parked just to get to. And I just look and I go, whatever. And I'll start driving straight to where the absolute best parking is, and they're like, what are you doing? And sure enough, bing. Well, look at that, right up front.
You got lucky.
Yes, again.
That never happens for me.
I can, and God bless them. I want to be like, well, it could if you would stop with the stinking thinking.
Yep.
But they're so wound up into the identity of lack.
Yep.
And it's just like people that know me, I'm always getting deals. Right, Duncan?
Oh, yes. You know that one.
Yeah, it blows people away, the bargains and the deals that I come across. I am so blessed. Oh my goodness gracious. It's kind of scary sometimes how good I am at manifesting stuff. When I, with some of the construction projects we've had around here, a couple of guys that help me out every now and then with some of the building, they're at the point now, they'll show up and they're like, oh, did you get those for free too? And I'm like, oh no, I had to pay for it. Well, yeah, let me guess, like what, 60% off? I'm like, oh yeah, actually you're right, about 60% off, 70%. How do you do that? Because I put the intention out there and I've gotten really good at believing that the universe will provide that for me.
And when it does, is it, well, for me, it's a reminder, right? That happens. Me too. It happens all the time. And it's a
Yes.
reminder, oh, I was feeling so whatever, not so, but I had a negative thought or woe is me or, just that kind of, things aren't going quite the way I want, whatever. And then that happens, you go, okay, the universe has my back.
Yes,
Stop
Mark just put in
complaining.
the comments, the universe is always listening.
Yeah. And they want to help.
And that brought us to the top of the hour, which I'm going to close out with a quote that I came up with and I teach my clients and my students, that in the quantum of possibilities, best case scenario has just as much probability as worst case scenario.
Yeah.
The one that you will find the most is the one that you look for and you feed the most energy to. If you believe that you are a lucky person, you will be far more lucky than the person that, oh, I'm not lucky, I never win. Well, it might have something to do with that stinking thinking.
I believed that I could resurrect this thing.
Yes, look at that beautiful piece of machinery. Yes,
Sounds great, looks pretty nice.
yep. And
Yep,
somewhere out there, somebody was like, I believe that I'll be able to find somebody that will be able to put this back together for me.
exactly.
Just like that. And so, my friends, look at your bonsai tree. What can be trimmed back to give you the healthiest life? How can we help you? How can we help you with the thinking and the manifesting and the kinesthetics? Like Mike put in the comments, very interesting. I've been experiencing some cramping in the right front rib cage. My posture's been poor and I'm going through a lot of stress right now. Yeah, it's really interesting how that stuff all coincides. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. If you haven't read it, I recommend you do. It'll open up some stuff. You'll start understanding your thinking can really affect your health.
Yep.
But as I promised, I want to keep my promise to you guys that we keep this at 2 hours because I don't want people setting aside their precious time and getting sucked in. And I know you all have stuff to do, other things you could be doing, places you could be. So thank you, thank you, thank you again for allowing us to bring this all the way to episode number 234. All takes time. So thank you for your time. As soon as I can figure out how to reproduce and give it back, I will. You'll be the second to know. I will gladly do that for you. Until then, love you guys. Go out and live the best life possible. See your beautiful faces back here in 7 beautiful days. Until then, bye. Oh, and love you, Mom. See you guys
Good night,
later.
folks.